This is The Toss-Up, where an expert-line panel dissects the hottest stories within the world of sports. From some of the nation's strongest college programs right here in Bloomington to the games and moments that capture the world's attention, it's all right here on The Toss-Up. The IU women's soccer season has been a whirlwind of results up to this point. In Erwin Van Benekom's first year as head coach, he led his team to a 4-3 non-conference record, then stumbled out of the gate in his first two Big Ten matchups. Now, there have definitely been some highs and lows thus far. The Hoosiers were handed a surprising loss by Murray State, but then turned around and beat Kentucky on the road. They've been shut out 4 times this season, but have also limited their opponents to 1 goal or less in over half of their games. So bottom line, it's hard to get a gauge on where this team is right now. But don't worry, that's what you've got us for. Hello everyone and welcome to The Toss-Up. I'm your host Drew Fry, and I'm joined by our expert panelists who are all here ready to break down this team season so far. So immediately to my left, we've got Will Trubshaw, the IDS beat reporter. We've got Brandon Schaff over there from Big Ten Student U, and Griffin Epstein from our very own IUS TV Sports. So guys, I'm just gonna kick it off right away. We're looking at a transition year, it seems like, to be blunt with it. Brand new head coach. We've got a lot of young players coming in. So what has been the difference so far between this team and last year's team? Will, I'm going to start off with you.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing is that Coach Van Benekom has instilled a new defense-first type of game plan. The plan is to build from the back, and you see that they pass on the back line, and that's how they transition into their offense. It's not an offense attack first. And I think it's shown in the results. Obviously, at the beginning of the season, maybe led to some slower results they haven't wanted, but it's starting to work a little bit more. But to me, that's been the biggest difference between this year and last year.
Well, the biggest difference, I think, without a doubt, has been the head coaching situation, moving away from Amy Burberry, moving towards Erwin Van Benekom, a really significant decision for them to make. Mm-hmm. And obviously, I think it's been a good decision when you look at the team from a chemistry standpoint. It seems as though the team is starting to come together. They're trying to find their footing, and that's something that we will talk about as the show goes along, believe me. But there is a lot of good things to look forward to.
Yeah, Griffin, what have you seen out of this new coaching staff?
Yeah, it's a rebuilding season, no doubt, with a new coach coming in. A lot of players transferred out of the program, a lot of players transferred into the program. And Erwin Van Benekom, he hasn't been a head coach in almost 10 years, not of a D1 program before. So he's learning a little bit on the job, and a lot of the players, freshmen and sophomores, are learning as well. Similar to Archie Miller 2 years ago with the men's basketball team and Steve Aird a year ago with the volleyball team. A lot of learning, a lot of adjustments, but the team has some expectations that they need to build over the course of the season.
And looking to build those expectations is a pretty young team that we've seen so far, several freshmen and sophomores logging significant minutes into the season. Will, I'm going to come back to you as one of our veterans here. What are some of the downsides of having these younger players having to step up into these roles?
Well, I mean, obviously, it's one, you have to get adjusted to your new coach's system whenever you come into a new school, if you're a freshman or if you're a transfer. The other thing, too, is you're just getting adjusted to playing at the college level. For a lot of these freshmen, the Hoosiers have a few true freshmen starting. It is a different game, and especially once you get to Big Ten play, it just becomes more physical, more challenging mentally, too. It really makes you work. So I think those are certainly some of the challenges of having a predominantly underclassmen team out there. At the same time, though, these are some very talented underclassmen. We'll talk about later in the show. I mean, you can talk about Avery Lockwood and Elena Killen. Those are two that Erwin Van Benekom always points out as really players who he thinks are going to be the rock of this program going forward. And they've shown flashes. So challenges, again, you're learning a new system. It's a whole new world. But you could say that for just about any freshman in any athletic program.
And now, Brandon, I'm going to skip over you real quick. I'll come back to you in a second. But Griffin, I got to go to you as now the youngest member of our panel. I'll let you take the other side. What are some of the benefits of having the youth, the fresh legs, really come into this program? with the new head coach.
Well, the good thing is this team isn't afraid. They faced a lot of adversity early. They went to the #2 team in the country, North Carolina, in their opener on national television, got blown out. That's not easy. They had a tough losses, such as to Murray State, a 1-goal loss to Louisville, but they turned that around at the end of non-conference play, beating UT Martin and beating Kentucky, and now with 2 straight losses to open Big Ten play, they're going to have to forget about it and not be scared, and I think that's the benefit of having youth.
And so, Brandon, I said I'd come back to you. I'm going to let you throw out your opinion here. Is it a good or a bad thing to have this so much youth coming into this program and having that fresh group getting started?
Well, it definitely depends on your perspective. Obviously, you want a team that comes together and you're able to assimilate those new players into the program, and that's what they've been able to do so far, especially when you look at the talent with Avery Lockwood as a freshman who's come in and now leads the team in shots, ties for the most goals on the team. It's really been an exciting year for a lot of these young players who have logged a significant amount of minutes with the team, and I think that's something that Irwin has tried to stress. Now, that has also led to the flip side of the equation where there are a lot of mistakes that are being made, a lot of sloppy turnovers, and really just silly, stupid things, especially starting out conference play. It seems as though there's a lot of things that they really need to work out, and they are going to need to do that going into Michigan and Michigan State coming up.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway from this is it'll be good for the long-term future of the program. When you get a lot of young freshmen and sophomore players in now, 3 or 4 years down the line, they'll have had all that time to grow into this system, and you would think at that point they'll be outstanding. You'll see how strong, how battle-tested Erwin Van Bennekom's system is once you have those freshmen and sophomores in there. But for short-term success, it's not going to be great. I think that's the best way to put where the team is right now.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Griff, I'm going to come to you. I feel like we got to address the elephant in the room about this team. It's the offense. They've only scored more than 1 goal twice all season. That's out of 9 games. So is this a style of play they can keep up to keep depending on the defense? Is the defense good enough to handle it, or does the offense do we need to see something out of them?
Well, I think it's a style of play that you can keep up from Erwin Van Bennekom, but it's obviously got to result in more goals because you're not going to win soccer games by averaging 1 goal per game as they currently are right now. And I think it comes back to the lack of experience that we were talking about. Every team's going to get some opportunities, moments in a game, and it's can you convert those big moments in soccer. And so far through this young season, a lot of the young players not used to the spotlight have struggled to convert in big moments. And Coach Van Bennekom talked about earlier in the season that every 5 opportunities you should be able to score a goal. Well, this team's averaging 12 shots per game, which isn't bad. They're getting their opportunities, but they're not converting them right now. So the team absolutely needs to convert on their opportunities. I think their style of play is giving them some opportunities, but they just need to convert, and we'll see if that comes with time.
I want to expand on that too. I mean, obviously, the short answer, the easy answer is no, it's not enough. You just look at how they've gone against Iowa and Nebraska over the course of this past weekend. Even if they had scored 1 goal in the game like they had been before, it wouldn't have been enough. They lost 2-0 in both of these games, and again, I understand the Big Ten is a completely different animal than the rest of the season, but as you were talking about, they have been putting a tremendous amount of shots on goal. You get 3 shots per game at least from players like Lockwood and Davidson, and they're unable to capitalize on it, and it just needs to change.
And Will, we've seen so far with this team, I mean, you could just look at the assist numbers. It seems like everyone's got an assist, but to counter that, everyone has 1 assist. No one's really stood out on this team. I guess, is that a fair statement? And do you think someone's going to need to step up?
Well, if you're looking at it from assist, I don't know if that's necessarily the best stat to look at who has jumped up or who has really stood out on the offense. Again, I think it goes back to the goal scoring, and a reason for the small number of assists is, again, just due to the lack of goals being scored right now. But you also have to look at it, defensively. This team's only given up 11 goals while they've scored 10. So it's not like they're getting blown out in these games. There have been some shutouts and stuff, but for the most part, they're doing a good job of keeping it consistent. But now back to your question. Sorry to get distracted there.
Of
but
course.
I think once they start converting on their opportunities, you're going to see the assist numbers going to go up. Is there going to be one person that jumps out? I don't know. I think the players who are leading the way right now are the players who are going to have to carry this team, and Chandra Davidson and Avery Lockwood. They are the offensive powerhouses. They're going to need to find their groove again. They're going to have to find the back of the net a lot more. They're going to be the ones the team has to rely on right now. So I think it's a matter of if and when they get going. But that's all you can say. The assist numbers and everything, they'll go up once those players start finding the back of the net.
And I think one issue with the team is there isn't a lot of depth on this team. There aren't a lot of experienced players, 17 underclassmen, as we talked about. Chandra Davidson had big expectations coming into the season. She's a senior. As a sophomore, she was third on the team in goals scored. She's really an outstanding player, but teams have keyed in on her. They've known that if they can slow her down, slow down Avery Lockwood, there aren't a lot of other options on this IU team to score goals. So we're going to have to see some other younger players step up besides Lockwood or Davidson if Big Ten teams are going to continue their style of focusing on the top Hoosiers.
And that's where Van Bennekom comes in. He needs to recognize that somebody like Davidson cannot be the only, she can't be a one-woman band. She can't be the only person that is the focal point of the offense. I understand that you have, side options like Melanie Forbes is able to get in there. Avery Lockwood is able to get in there. There are a lot of different people. Megan Scott. There are people who are able to set things up, but the execution just hasn't been there, and that's things that they need to work out in practice.
Yeah, definitely. Plenty of room for growth for this team. Well, it's been a great discussion so far, but we do have to cut to a break. So we will be right back, so stick with us for more IU women's soccer. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Toss-Up. We've been talking IU women's soccer so far. Welcome back from the break. Now, upcoming this season, we're going to get into some Big Ten play. Plenty of great opponents, but no one has really established themselves as a high ranker, it seems like, in terms of women's soccer. A lot of teams jostling around for those other receiving votes, mid-20 spots. So, Will, I'm going to start with you. Where does IU play into that, and is there a gap that IU is going to need to bridge?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think as it stands right now, the way this team is played and with the youth, you could see them maybe towards the bottom half of the Big Ten. But at the same time, I think the potential is there, the talent is there, that they could certainly crack the top 8 and make a postseason run in the Big Ten. I certainly think that's a potential, because really outside of Penn State and Rutgers, it's not a deep league. Coach Van Bennekom talks all the time about in the ACC when he was with Duke, there were really 6 or 7 teams consistently in the top 25 and always a threat to make an NCAA tournament run. In the Big Ten, you don't really have that. So if IU gets hot at the right time, there's no reason to think they couldn't crack a postseason berth. But that's a big if right now.
And so, Brandon, what do they need to do to get there?
Well, obviously, there's a lot of things that need to change between now and then. Of course, capitalizing on all of these missed opportunities is one of the biggest things. But if you look at what Van Bennekom has done as they kind of shift into Big Ten play now, you've had an opportunity to see teams like Iowa who are ranked, right? You're going to go against a team like Michigan coming up, which is who I personally believe should be the favorite in the Big Ten right now. There is a lot of opportunity for them to learn from those mistakes and try to turn that around. And I think that going against a team like Michigan State, which they have historically dominated for the past 2 years, they've been able to beat them. So if they're able to continue that and then continue that against a team like Michigan, that could really bring back their confidence and allow things to progress in the most positive way.
And so, Griffin, we've seen sort of a mixed bag of results so far with this year. I mean, that loss to Murray State, I understand they're a solid team, but that's still not something that you want to see on your record. But then they turn around and beat Kentucky and Lexington. So what should we be judging this team on? It seems like there's just so much up in the air.
I think you do judge them on that Kentucky game. I think that was their best effort, by far their best game of the season that they played against a good Wildcats team in Lexington. But for the Hoosiers, I think that it's the little things that you focus on, and a team like Murray State, up and down, made some mistakes this weekend in the Big Ten, little things against Iowa, and just a one-win Nebraska team coming in really cost them the game. But I think this team will develop over the course of the season. They're very young, as we keep on talking about, and Coach Erwin Van Bennekom's job is to improve this team, get better, and fight through the adversity that there's going to be in Big Ten play, because there's not a lot of great teams, but there's not a lot of bad teams either.
One other thing on that too. I mean, we complain about the Murray State loss, but you look at what the Hoosiers were able to do up until they lost to Iowa. That 3-game winning streak that they went on, they were outshooting and outscoring opponents by staggering numbers: 58 shots to 13, 8 goals to 1 for Indiana in Indiana's favor. If they can get back to playing like that, especially in conference play, that is something that I think could propel them to possibly top 5, if not top 3 in this conference, which will, as you mentioned, really does not go that far outside of teams like Indiana when they're playing at their true potential.
Yeah, plenty of time in the season to see where the Hoosiers can go. Unfortunately for us, not plenty of time left on the show, so we got to go into the quick fire round. I want these answers in 10 seconds or less. So Will, I'm going to start with you, and we're going to go around the horn. At the end of the season, who will be IU's Player of the Year?
I think it's going to be Chandra Davidson. She's going to catch fire again. It took her a couple games to get rolling at the beginning of the season, but she's going to be great. She's going to carry this team the rest of the way.
Brandon?
I like Chandra Davidson, but I think that Avery Lockwood is fired up and she knows what the stakes are for this season. She's proven it so far. I think that she could do something, especially in her freshman year.
Griffin, Player of the Year.
Brandon stole Avery from me, but I'll throw out another player. Olivia Vose, transfer from Wake Forest, has experience in the NCAA tournament. I think she could bring a good deal of experience to these Hoosiers.
All right, one more round, 10 seconds or less. Who is the player we are not talking about? Griffin, we're going to start back with you.
I think Bria Telemark. I think she's a dangerous freshman. She can score goals. She's a little bit out of the woods, but I think she could break out for Indiana.
Melanie Forbes, the junior midfielder, has not really been getting a lot of conversation in her direction. She had that goal against Kentucky. She's the last Hoosier to score for them as they go forward.
I was going to say Bria Telmack. I've been really impressed with her, but now I'm going to switch to Grace Saccone. She came in the second half of the most recent game against Nebraska, and the entire attitude changed on the team. They picked it up, and they outworked Nebraska in that second half. They just couldn't finish off the deal.
Yeah, plenty of names for the Hoosiers to go into the season. Unfortunately for us, we are out of time. So that will be our show. That does it for this week. But be sure to continue the discussion on our Twitter page at IUSTV Sports and on Facebook at IUSTV Sports. You can always give any suggestions for the show and ask any questions you might have. So toss it up and find out if we'll catch it. We'll see you next time.